Just 1 minute. I'm cold. I gotta get a coat. Just 1 minute. Good evening, everybody. I am Nate Eaton, coming to you from a chilly Boise. Let me know where you're watching from and what the weather's like, because it's cold here. I told people before I came out here to the trial that, oh, Boise's nice. The weather's perfect. They don't get as much snow as Eastern Idaho, and I'll walk to the courthouse every day, and I'll walk home because my hotel's close enough. Woke up this morning, and there was frost on my windshield. And it snowed yesterday, and it's been cold. I got home from court earlier today and walked into my room here, and it's so cold that I'm wearing a jacket. So, yes, maybe I'm a wimp. I don't know, but I'm ready for spring. It's been a long winter. And that being said, thank you for being here. Please let me know where you're watching from, and if you have any questions, we'll get to them. We went through a lot today in the Lori Vallow trial. It is day number 12. 6 witnesses on the stand. They are going through these witnesses like crazy, one after the other after the other. In fact, I have a chart here in just a few minutes. We'll count them all up and let you know how many have taken the stand. Of course, the original estimate of witnesses was something around 90. Now, I really don't think that the prosecutors are going to call 90 people. They could, but there's 90 or so potentials, and we're rolling through these. Today at court, we had information about bank accounts, flights, and a trip to Knott's Berry Farm in California. There was a money transfer happening as cops were searching Chad Daybell's property the morning of June 9th, 2020. A lot of money was being moved around by Chad Daybell sitting in his car on the phone with the bank. Burger King, Walgreens, and flip-flops. What does that mean? We'll get into it. We'll talk about the morning Charles died. A couple of detectives and a firefighter from Chandler, Arizona were brought into Idaho to talk about what they saw. We'll talk about Lori's visit to Hawaii in February of 2019, just a few months before Charles died. April Raymond, her friend, confidant. We've interviewed April. She's been on several shows. She talks about what Lori told her that day. Of course, we will remember JJ, Tylee, Charles, and Tammy. I have a real cute picture of JJ I want to show you. And as I mentioned, I want to answer as many questions as I can. Just so you know, many of you have written me saying, how can I find your updates? This is the easiest way. If you go to my reporter page on Facebook, Nate Eaton Reporter, many of you are watching from there, you can find those updates. I also tweet updates every minute or so from the courtroom. I have for the every day for the past, almost 3 weeks now. Nate News Now is how you can find me on Twitter. Instagram, I don't post a lot of updates there. That's more of a personal family type thing, photos, but you're welcome to follow me there. And our East Idaho News YouTube channel. Go on there and subscribe if you want to hear the audio every day. We post them. We get the files from the court. We break them out into witnesses. If you subscribe and you hit the bell, then you will get the notifications when we post a new video. So you can do that. That's how you can stay up to date. Also, just go to eastidahonews.com. Every morning at 8 o'clock, a story goes live on the website that shows all the updates that I put in from the courthouse. So hopefully that helps many of you who have been saying, how can I find your updates? That's how. Really easy. And we won't even charge you. Won't charge you a penny. Okay, let me show you the images from today. We have Lori here with her attorneys, John Thomas and Jim Archibald. This angle that the sketch artist Lisa took is my sight every day for the past few days. I'm seated directly right here. This is what I see. So I often see Lori turn over and chat with her attorneys. She's, will turn around and smile at people sometimes in the gallery. I was originally seated on the other side of the courtroom the first few days, but I found that I like this side better. Just a personal choice, and there's a plug there for my laptop. So there's Lori. Here is a sketch taken of people watching from the victims area of the courtroom. I'm not quite sure who those people are, but they were our sketch artist did get permission from them to sketch them. So it looks like she kind of combined a picture from Charles Vallow's family, it says on the right. And that says Tammy Daybell's family, but I don't know if that's correct. But anyway, there's some sketches there. And here is a detective who took the stand today. We're going to talk about that and what he had to say. Okay, here are the witnesses from just today. Look at all those. I'm going to get rid of me there. We have 6. We have Rexburg Police Detective Chuck Kunz. He was on the stand yesterday. He wrapped up his testimony today. We were told that he'll probably be called back in later. FBI accountant Michael Douglas, 2 S's, not to be confused with Tammy Daybell's brother, who's also named Michael Douglas, or the actor. This is an FBI forensic accountant. We had Chandler firefighter Scott Cowden, Detective Ariel Werther from the Chandler Police Department, Sandra Yncian. I'm probably butchering these names, and I heard him. I'm sorry. She's from the Chandler Police Department. And April Raymond, Lori's really good friend from the island of Hawaii. Okay, here's who we've had so far. I thought this was interesting. I went through and counted up all the witnesses. So we've had Kay, Brandon, Ray Hermosillo, Jared Wilmore, Joe Powell, Melanie Gibb. We've got 6 right there. Page 2, Nathan Duncan, Zulema Pastenes, Colby Ryan, and then the Social Security agent, Mark Sari. That gets us up to 10. And then the 6 today, who we just went through, Considus, Douglas, Cowden, Werther, Yncian, and Raymond. So we have had 16 witnesses that the prosecution has called. A question many of you have sent in is, can the defense call their own witnesses? They absolutely can. When the prosecution rests and the defense, it's their turn, they can call whoever they want. Jim Archibald has been vocal in public hearings before, saying they may not have very many witnesses, if any. So we don't know who they would call to testify on their behalf. But as of now, there's none. Again, the prosecution we have 16. They could call 30 more. They could call 1 more and rest. I doubt they're going to call more than 1. But this trial is moving right along. And I think one of the main reasons it's moving is there has not been much cross-examination from the defense. I don't know if there's been a witness that they've crossed for more than 30 minutes, maybe 20. I can't recall. Jim Archibald has taken over the cross-examining as of late. He did today and yesterday, and that's where we stand with the witnesses for the prosecution side. The witness list is sealed. We don't know the entire list, and we're not given a heads up before they're called to the stand. Now, sometimes we kind of get an idea. We see people outside of the courtroom, outside of the courthouse. We hear things. We knew Colby was in town, Colby Ryan. But you kind of hear stuff. But sometimes they call a witness, and you're like, oh, wow, okay, here they go. So tomorrow, we don't know who's going to be on the stand. We ended with April Raymond today, right at 3:30, right when we're supposed to be released. And that was what happened. So let me tell you exactly what happened at court today. But I'm going to have you hold a minute because I left my notebook over here. So stand by just 1 minute. My apologies for that. I record everything. I type everything out during the day. And then when I get home, I go through and write down key points that I want to talk about with you, just so I'm not, wasting your time. And hopefully it's not a waste of time. And then I have to put in this little earpiece so I can hear how I sound. But there we go. I'm an amateur at this. Sorry. Okay. First witness on the stand today was Chuck Kunz. Real big detective with the Rexburg Police Department. He was on there yesterday. He talked about an email that Chad Daybell sent in November of 2019. And he sent this to a woman named Julie Black, a realtor in Hawaii. And it said, "We are interested in seeing this property. Would the owners be interested in leasing this property to a clean couple with no pets or children? Please let us know. Thank you." Well, obviously, they both had children, but we know what happened with the children of Lori, belonging to Lori. They sadly were not alive at this time. No mention of that, and that is that's the email. So Considus read that into the record. I believe we spoke with Julie Black back in 2020. And she recalls Chad and Lori their communication with that. Considus also said that they did pharmaceutical searches. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently every time you get a prescription filled, no matter where it is, a record is kept. And some states keep more records than others. For example, Arizona tracks opioids and other hard drugs. They might not track an antibiotic. But what the Rexburg Police Department did is they asked pharmacy agencies in 4 states, Montana, Idaho, Arizona, and Hawaii, to do searches on JJ, Tylee, and Lori to find, and Melanie Pulowski, Boudreaux at the time, to find out if any prescriptions had been filled in any of those states, and none had during all of 2019. Now, we know JJ was on a medicine for his autism and his behavioral issues, but it appears that there was no record of a prescription being filled for him at all in 2019, and they searched his multiple names. He was born with a different name, then it was legally changed, so they searched all of those names, and Detective Considus said they were never able to find any prescriptions for JJ. And they searched flight records. Lori was hopping around on American Airlines, on Southwest Airlines, on Allegiant Air, a few trips to Hawaii. JJ was flying back and forth between Houston and Arizona. And Chad, interestingly enough, was flying a lot between Idaho Falls and Mesa. There's an Allegiant flight that goes direct that's pretty cheap. Chad was taking that flight, but he never charged it to his card, according to the detectives. Lori or Alex always paid for Chad's flights. Interesting note there. All right, the next detective we had was Michael. The next witness we had was Michael Douglas, forensic auditor. He said, and by the way, I'm really summarizing this all down. This took place over a few hours. They were going through bank statements, showing activity on Tylee's account, on Lori's account, the balances between the different accounts. It got very in the weeds with what was happening. So these are just kind of the highlights. Michael Douglas said that Tylee was very responsible with her money. We learned that Lori received a $60,000 life insurance payout after Joe Ryan died in 2018. I don't think we publicly knew this. And Joe Ryan's sister, Annie Cushing, who I've interviewed about this, she wasn't sure who got the payout, but we learned today Lori did get $60,000 after Joseph Ryan died. And interestingly enough, Lori had a $2 million life insurance policy on her. $2 million on her. Someone messaged me and said, how did she get such a huge policy? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, really, I guess I do know. If you're willing to pay the price for the insurance, you can get it if you're in pretty good health. And by all accounts, Lori is in good health. So she had a $2 million policy on her, and she changed the beneficiaries to only go to Colby in late 2019. She didn't put all of her kids, just Colby. Chad's bank account showed oddities. And when the Michael Douglas was asked what he found on Chad's account, he responded, it was more like what I didn't find. Like these plane tickets. Why didn't Chad ever pay for his own plane ticket? Another interesting tidbit we learned today. As police were searching the backyard at Chad's house that morning, he made 3 transfers on his bank account, Mountain America Credit Union, of $8,000 each to his 3 kids. That morning, right before he was arrested. That money likely came from Tammy Daybell's life insurance payout. He got 2 payouts before that. So after those transfers were made, the detective said there was around $4,400 left in his bank account. He was busy. That's the same morning that he and Lori talked on the phone, and then he was transferring this money to 3 of his kids. Then there was a trip to Knott's Berry Farm over Thanksgiving. Tammy had been dead for about a month. He took his kids with Lori to Knott's Berry Farm. And I have learned that Lori and Chad flew from California to Hawaii, but the kids, Chad's kids, flew back to Idaho. So they all were there together. Chad and Lori didn't return to Idaho. They went back to Hawaii, and then the kids came back to Idaho. Be interested to see how they spent Christmas and who they spent Christmas with, because it'd be, interesting to see how all of that family dynamic worked. Okay, so that was kind of the synopsis of what Mr. Douglas said. Again, he's a forensic auditor with the FBI. He's not a special agent. He made that clear. He's an auditor. Our third witness, so that then it was lunchtime, so we had a bit of a longer lunch. The third witness to take the stand was a man named Scott. Let me see. I want to be sure I get his name right. It looks like it's Scott Cowden. And he is with a paramedic and a firefighter with Chandler Fire. He says that on the morning of July 11th, 2019, he was dispatched to a gunshot wound. Of course, it was Charles. He got to the house. He had been told by dispatchers that CPR had been done on Charles. Well, he went in and he noticed that, he noticed a few things were off. He lifted up Charles's shirt and he testified that when you give CPR, normally there's little impressions in the chest because you're pushing down. You're able to see some sign that you had done CPR. Not only that, but if you're doing it the right way, there's usually crunching because you're breaking ribs or you're breaking the sternum. So he began CPR, and his first push, there was a crunch. Well, they had been told that Alex Cox did CPR. If Alex Cox had done it, there probably would not have been that crunch. There was also no impression, as I said, in the chest. And the firefighter got blood on his gloves because he had been shot. There was blood. There was no blood on Alex Cox's hands. So, interesting little tidbit there. This firefighter was only on the stand for, 10 minutes. It was short testimony, but it was memorable. So many of you say, what is Lori doing, and how is she reacting when this testimony is heard? I mean, a lot of it, you'd think that if you heard it, you'd be like, oh man, what's she doing? She has not shown any sign of shock or amazement. I mean, granted, she probably knew most of this if her attorneys have prepped her and gone over the evidence with her, but she writes a lot in her notebook. I've seen her when someone will say something, she'll turn to her attorney and, depending on the day, it might be John Thomas. The other day, it might be Jim Archibald. I mean, she will make it known, it seems, that she might not agree with something that was said, or it might not be her version of events. I did see her once smile when Brandon Boudreau said that JJ liked to travel. She got a big grin on her face and kind of like, yes, he did. He did love to travel. But she just sits there. Now, the jurors, what's their response? Again, a lot of them write. They're writing. They're looking at her. They're looking at the witnesses. I did see a few yawns today for the first time. Now, I want to make it clear. I am looking at my computer probably 70% of the time because I'm typing. And then I'll look up and then I'll look down. I'm not seeing everything at all times. So please, if someone else says they saw something, they may have. I did not see, but a reporter told me and another person confirmed that when Colby Ryan walked up to take the stand yesterday, Lori said, "Oh, it's my baby." So I personally did not see that, but I saw that it was reported. All right, the next detective was Ariel Werther. He is a detective with the homicide unit in Chandler, and he was one of the first to arrive at the house. And he kind of went through a timeline of that morning. But before I get into him, I want to talk a little bit about this 404B objection. Back several months ago, some hearings were held that I believe were closed to the public. And based on reading between the lines as much as I can understand, the defense does not believe that the crime committed in Arizona against Charles Vallow, that witnesses talking about that should be admitted into this trial. Yes, Lori is facing a conspiracy to commit murder charge in Arizona, but that is not applicable in our state, in Idaho. So anytime a law enforcement officer from Arizona has gotten up to testify, the defense has objected based on what they say the Idaho 404B law or rule. Now, Boyce has overruled the objection every time, and the witness has been allowed to testify. I think this is more kind of an appeal thing where the defense can say, well, all of that stuff with Charles, that's not tied to this. So all that stuff shouldn't have been brought in, but it is being brought in. So the defense is objecting, and on some of these witnesses, they say, we have no cross-examination. We're done. We objected. On some, though, they do follow up, and they do question. So that kind of explains that. I'm not an attorney. If you know an attorney, and if you are an attorney, I've explained it wrong, please let me know. But I've tried to understand it as best as I could. So Werther gets on the stand, and he kind of paints a picture of what happened the morning that Charles was shot. Lori visits the Burger King at 7:54. Let me back up. Charles is shot. They went through the chain of events today. Lori told police that Charles showed up to take JJ to school, went in the house. While he was in the house, Lori looked at Charles's phone and said that she saw evidence of an affair. Charles went to get his phone back. Lori wouldn't give it to him. She kind of ran around the house. He became furious and angry. They sent JJ outside. Tylee came out with a bat to go at her dad, to go at Charles. Charles was able to get the bat away from her. Then the Alex comes out and starts to wrestle or fight with Charles. And then he gets a gun and he shoots him. Lori then leaves the home. And JJ was apparently walking back into the house, but she ushers him away into the car with Tylee. Apparently they didn't have any shoes. So she had to stop at Walgreens to get them shoes. Okay, got all that? Alex is in the house with Charles. He did not call 911 right away. Here's the timeline. Lori visits Burger King at 7:54. At 8:15, she visits Walgreens. That's where she bought the flip-flops. At 8:30, Charles's phone showed the location service was on, that it was at JJ's school. So Lori, we assume, took the phone with her. But at 8:36, Alex calls 911. So I don't know how long Charles was in there dead. An hour maybe? The first officer arrived at 8:42. Lori arrived back at the house at 8:48. So the detective put up a map, like a Google map, and kind of plotted out the stops and said that the most direct route from the house to JJ's school was about 7 to 8 miles. This timeline, she would not have been able to get back by the time the 911 call was made. Let's say Alex calls 911 and then Lori left the house and then she returns back. She wouldn't have enough time. That wouldn't make sense. Between 8:36 and 8:48, 12 minutes, she would not have enough time to go 8 miles one way, drop him off, 8 miles the other way, and come home. So clearly, there was a delay in the 911 call. So we have video evidence of Lori's visit to Burger King. And I'm going to play that for you. I'm going to talk over it here. Again, this is surveillance footage, so it's not the best, and there's no sound. But JJ apparently loved, I'm going to fast forward here a minute. So you see the clock, 7:54. There's Lori. Pause right there. She's in the car. The detective said that he was able to tell that somebody was in the passenger seat, likely Tylee, and somebody was in the back seat. Well, I don't know if you can see somebody in the back seat, but they said that JJ loved chicken fries from Burger King and Sprite. And that is what the receipt shows. So there's Lori. Her husband's dying on the floor at the house. The blurs are from the police. I think they're blurring the worker. There she is getting the Sprite. She goes over to serve Lori. They give the food there. So the whole encounter is, this says 2 minutes, 26 seconds. I would say about 2 minutes, a little less than 2 minutes. Okay, so that's the visit to the Burger King that they got surveillance video on. They also, they thought originally that Lori had visited CVS. And they to buy the flip-flops. And so this detective went to multiple CVS stores and couldn't find any surveillance of Lori. And then they got Charles's phone location and saw that she actually stopped at Walgreens, and they were able to pull video from there. I have not seen that video of her at Walgreens, but she got flip-flops because the kids left the house so fast that she wasn't able to get on their shoes. So does that make sense? That's what happened. Now, after that witness, we had Sandra Yncian. She's a detective with the Chandler police. She arrived on the scene, again, with the homicide unit and saw Lori and saw Tylee standing next to Charles's rental car. He had a rental at the time, and she said that the behavior was very different. There was no sign of emotion, really. At one point, Lori laughed. I think we've all seen that video if you followed it, the body camera footage. And so the detective went over and kind of gathered up Lori and Tylee and said, we need to interview you. Let's go down to the police department. And they got in the car, and the detective said they try not to talk at all in the car or anything. They try to just get to the police department so the interview can be recorded so they can get statements. But Lori was chatting away, talking about Tylee, talking about her accomplishments at school, all sorts of stuff. And she just said the behavior was very odd. And then they get there, and we have the interview that took place between Lori and this detective. I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but I do want to play just a little bit to give you a taste, just a minute or two, of what Lori was acting like that day. Remember, her husband has been shot, and here she is with the police. Here we go.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I know, you know what, it was such a struggle because she made a hospital. You go back to school, I try to talk to the teachers, but in high school, they don't care. They're like, you're not here, do the work, or don't. Like, they don't care. They're so loyal.
With high school, it's like, they're just pumping.
But when she was in elementary and junior high, all the teachers worked with her. They were nice about it. But by high school, there's so many kids, they just don't care. And I was like, just take it, you're so smart. Let's just take it and see if you pass it. She passed it.
And got a really good score?
Yeah, she passed it with, like, college ready in every category the first time.
Well, and now she can do what she wants, so.
Exactly.
She's better off that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know Lori's your first name, right?
Yeah.
L-A-U-R?
L-O-R-I.
Okay. And then what's your last name?
Vallow. V-A-L-L-O-W.
And your date of birth? And your phone number? And you live at the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, I know this sounds silly, but it's probably the easiest way to start, is just to tell me what happened. And then, so you can start what makes the most sense to you, and we'll just work our way through, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions just to kind of clarify.
Sure.
So I know you talked to the initial patrol officer.
And he just got information. He didn't say anything.
So yeah, if you can just kind of tell me kind of what happened. It sounds like some of this may have started last night or something along those lines.
Right.
So start where you think it makes the most sense.
Okay, so,
I told you, it's a crazy question.
Well, so we moved into this house 3 weeks ago because he offered to get me a house here where all my family is. So we were in Houston. And so he's like, we had decided to separate or whatever. So he's like, well, I'll pay for a house for you and for JJ and whatever, because he's all about JJ. He's never about Tylee, but he's all about JJ. Because we adopted him together. He's his great nephew. We adopted him as a baby.
Okay, so I'm going to butt in here. Just like, as I said, Lori gives her version of events. This is about 55 minutes. We've got it on our YouTube channel if you want to watch it all. But notice that it's like she's chatting with an old friend, you know, just very casual, relaxed, no emotion. There she is by herself in the room. Oh, maybe we did get some emotion there, a tear or two. But Tylee was also interviewed in another room at the time. And then Alex was interviewed as well. So we've got that happening. And it's interesting to hear. And then they went back to the scene, and the detective said again that Lori was talking about Tylee and her schoolwork and everything like that. So there we go. That's what that detective had to say. And before that detective left, Archibald cross-examined her and said, well, do you know how, is there like a set standard for how people are supposed to act once their spouses die? Like basically saying, is that abnormal or not? And she goes, well, no, I just knew that it was something. And so that's what happened there. Now, the next witness was April Raymond. April flew in from Hawaii, and I want to show you this video we got of her. This was after her testimony, as she was leaving the courthouse, but because we don't have a sketch of her, here is just kind of what she looks like if you haven't seen April before. Hey, April. Anything you want to say? So that's what April had to say. April talked about how she first met Lori living in Hawaii back in 2016, and she and Lori were on the serving in the primary presidency together, which the primary presidency in the LDS Church is they are over the kids, the children under 12. So they did a lot of stuff together. They planned activities for the kids. They did church lessons on Sunday. They did a lot together. And April said that one day, well, Lori visited in 2018 and started to talk a little bit about this end of days type stuff. Not full on, but she said that some of it was there. And then in 2019, when Lori suddenly came back in February, she called April and said, hey, Tylee and I just landed in Hawaii. I'm getting a divorce from Charles. I need a place to stay. And then I believe she came over the next day or that week and full on started to talk about portals and leading the 144,000 and multiple probations. And she said that she didn't flat out ask April to join in, but April said she felt as if she was being groomed for this. And after that experience, she then said that Melanie Gibb came to the island and they went out for lunch a few times and for dinner a few times, and that Melanie Gibb fully believed all this stuff. JJ was not there. She said JJ was with Charles in the mainland, and then but Lori did say at one point that she was so done with JJ. She was done with him. And April Raymond said she took that to believe that she was done with him because they're getting a divorce, that Charles could now care for him. Not that she wanted him dead or anything like that, just that she was done with him. So April really got along with Lori in the beginning, but then all of this happened, and she said that she's a different person. Her testimony lasted for about an hour or so. Jim Archibald did have some questions for her on cross-exam, but nothing major, and then she was released to go. And I do think that imagine testifying against somebody who you worked closely with at church or at work or something. April, I did not see her look one time at Lori. She was very focused on the prosecutor. Lori, of course, looked at her, but she did not look at Lori. Now, there was an incident right before April took the stand. So all of the witnesses that were sent subpoenas were told, you do not watch any of the coverage and don't listen to any witness testimony because it could affect your testimony. Well, April Raymond said that somebody on Facebook sent her a story that Justin Lum from Fox in Phoenix did about a week ago, or earlier this week. And she said she watched about 2 minutes of the story and then turned it off, and then she read some of the comments. And the question was, is that enough to affect her testimony? Like, should her testimony be thrown out? Should she be allowed to testify? And Jim Archibald was questioning her about, have you been in touch with the media and, kind of going down that road. And the prosecution argued that that one clip that didn't have to do with the trial per se and was just, somebody giving their opinion should be okay, and ultimately the judge agreed. But that is the first time that we've heard about that. Every other witness we've heard said they have had no, they haven't watched the media or anything like that. Once they're done testifying, they can then go watch the media or do interviews. But as you saw earlier, Rachel did not want to talk. Not Rachel, April. I'm sorry. All right, so that's what happened today. It was a busy day, one thing after another, kind of a technical day, and interesting nuggets here and there about what was happening with the money in the accounts and whatnot. Tomorrow, I don't have a clue who's going to be on there. It could be anybody. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens tomorrow with the testimony. But I do want to share this great picture of JJ. JJ Vallow, and the person that shared this with me said JJ loved going on airplanes. He loved it so much that he had a bunch of different character rolling suitcases, and he loved packing them up with all his clothes and toys and pretending he was going to the airport almost daily. He would roll them around the house. It was so cute. That was always so fun for him. I can just imagine him loving airplanes, and he was able to fly back and forth to see his dad when his dad moved to Houston and go see his grandparents in Louisiana, and I'm sure it was just so special for him. And so tonight we remember JJ and Tylee and Tammy and Charles. We hear about them every day in this trial. Sometimes it's not the best way, but we do hear about them, and sadly that's why we're here. Okay, I hope you've been sending in your questions because I want to get to as many as I can here tonight. Let me pull these up here. They're coming in so fast, so thank you for sending these. Here we go. First question, will Chad be a witness? No. Chad is a co-conspirator in this case, so he faces the same charges, so the prosecution cannot force him to testify. Now, if there was a plea agreement, like Chad suddenly says, I want to take a plea agreement, I'll plead to this, and the prosecution said, okay, in exchange for that, you have to testify against Lori. Something like that could be worked out. But no, Chad will not be just a normal witness that gets called up because it's a co-conspiracy case. So they're being kind of tried together. I mean, they're being not tried together, but the charges are the same and they're connected. Cassandra, is there any indication that Chad is leading his religious group from behind bars? Good question. I do know that Chad has spent time reading religious books in jail, and he has a laptop that is full of evidence that his attorney gave him. I don't believe it's connected to the internet, and he spends a lot of time going through all of the evidence. It seems as if the followers Chad had thus far, Zulema, Melanie, Lori, well, Lori might still believe it, I don't know, but Zulema and Melanie have showed up, and they have said that they are no longer associated with this. So if he is leading it, I don't know how many people are following it. Rochelle, how do they determine which prosecutor asks which questions? That's a good question, Rochelle. I don't know. I'm sure that they've divided it up. They've divided things up among the team, and they're like, okay, this is your witness. Prepare them. And this is your witness, and I know more about this, or I have a better relationship with this, or I can be more effective with this. So they really have this team of 5 prosecutors, 3 kind of leads, Lindsay Blake, Rob Wood, and Rachel Smith, and then 2 deputies, Tanya Rawlings and Spencer Rammel, who have done some questioning. I would say thus far the main questioners have been Lindsay and Rob, but they just kind of rotate through. Same with Jim Archibald and John Thomas. John Thomas seemed to do a lot at the beginning, and Jim Archibald has been doing more lately. Please, Marnie, please tell us where Lori's first 2 husbands are. I think they are alive. Have they weighed in on any of this mess? No, and we have tried to find them. In fact, we don't even have a picture of one of them. Her first husband, who was quite young when they got married. Here, I might actually have an image of our tree that our guy put together that can help you understand. But they are in hiding. I know I work with Dateline NBC, and I know that we've tried to track them down. Dateline has tried to track them down, and they're in hiding. So if you're watching, guys, we'd love to talk to you. Here's the tree. So Nelson Yanis, the first husband, William Lagoya, the second husband, so we don't have photos of either of those. Joseph Ryan, the third husband, died in 2018, and then Charles, and then the fifth husband is Chad over on your left of the screen. And then you can kind of see how it all branches out. I've posted this on my Facebook page if you want to go get a longer look at that family tree. I don't know if it matters, but what does Lori eat for lunch? That's a good question, and I'm going to try to figure that out. I imagine a meal is brought into the courthouse. She could probably eat with her attorneys, but we've seen her attorneys leave for lunch, and they probably want a break from their client, as anybody would. Not just in this case, I'm saying in general. So they probably bring her in a sandwich or something, and she eats it there, and then her attorneys go eat. And the jurors as well, they do bring lunch in for the jurors. I know you're away from home, so have you found some comfort food somewhere in Boise? Oh my gosh, I was telling my wife last night that I'm surrounded by all of these pizza places that look amazing, and I love pizza, and I have not tried any of them. I've had a Little Caesars pizza, and what I do, I bring my lunch to the court, and I leave it in the car, and then on our break, because the breaks are so short, and I don't want to lose my parking spot. So after lunch, I go to my car, and I eat it, and then I eat breakfast in the hotel. So really the only time that I would go out would be dinner time, but I'm prepping for this, so I don't have a lot of time. So honestly, I have visited Chipotle a lot because I love Chipotle, and we don't have that in Idaho Falls. But I want to get out because there's so many good places here, it looks like. But I really have not, and Chick-fil-A a time or two. But yeah, I have not. So if you're from here, give me some recommendations that are quick. By the way, I have to say that the kindness of you all is just overwhelming. I've had so many of you email me from the Boise area saying, you can stay at my house or my parents' house and they'll cook for you, or you've offered to bring meals or whatnot. And I can't thank you enough. I really can't. The issue is a lot of timing, just because, when the court's over, I'm still working and I got to, focus so I can bring this to you. So hopefully one weekend soon, my family will come out and we'll actually explore and go to these good places to eat. What was the jury's reaction to Colby? I think they were pretty touched. I don't know how you couldn't be in any situation. That phone call, of course, was gripping, which, by the way, our Jordan back at in our newsroom, he's done some modifications to the audio, and he's adding captions to that call. So hopefully you can hear it a little better, and there'll be captions that you can read. Once that's finished, I'll post that on our YouTube and our Facebook so that you can read it. Was there a service for Alex where Lori and Chad in attendance? I believe it was a very small service, and I don't think Lori and Chad went. Jennifer, how did Colby react to this recording in court? I think I answered that. Do they stop and explain the Book of Mormon? Because honestly, how can the jury not be totally confused? I haven't heard them explain what the Book of Mormon is, other than they might say, is that a book of scripture? And then if religious terms are used, like a blessing, they'll say, describe what a blessing is. They're keeping it very simple, very understandable, and not going too deep thus far. Do Janice Cox and Summer Shiflett still stand behind Lori? Do you think Chad Daybell's children will be in the courtroom supporting him? Are they still supporting him? I don't know where Janice and Summer currently stand. They have not been in Boise. I haven't seen them. Summer is on the witness list, so I imagine she will be coming to testify at one point. So I'm not sure what their thoughts are. Along with Chad's kids, they're not here. Obviously, it's Lori's trial, and I would imagine they'd want to be there. They did come to the one hearing. A few of the kids came to the one hearing. I don't remember what it was, an arraignment or something, but that's it. And last I've heard, yes, they still support him. They stand behind him. How on earth does someone with no income have such big life insurance policies? Well, we talked about that. I guess if you can pay, I don't know if income is a factor when you get life insurance. Again, this is outside of my wheelhouse. If you're an insurance broker, comment below. But I think as long as you can pay the premiums, you can insure yourself for as much as you want. They might cut it off and say it's a little odd. Like, why do you need $10 million and you work at Burger King? I don't know. And Jennifer says, is it too late for Chad to take a plea deal? No, I don't think it is. And honestly, I don't know if it's too late for Lori either. If she suddenly said, I'm going to plead guilty in exchange for this and that, I think that that could happen. A case in point, a few days ago, the Fox News Dominion lawsuit, I don't know if you were following that, they had a jury set ready to go and an agreement was reached. That was a civil matter. This is criminal, but yeah, I think they would listen to that. We'd miss out on another trial, but it would, get settled. The question came in, if Chad gave $8,000 to each of his kids, will they have to pay it back? That's a good question. I don't know. I think Chad, they might have to say Chad could pay it back. If he received life insurance money illegally, he technically would have to pay it back. I don't think they're going to go after the places where he spent it. They're not going to go after the car dealership or whatever. So I think that he would be responsible to pay it back, not them. Why do they take sidebars? Well, sidebars are done for a lot of stuff where they might have to, get everybody on the same page. Yesterday, there were some sidebars over the numbering of witness exhibits to make sure that everything was accurate and correct. So that's kind of why they do it. And every time they do a sidebar, they play white noise over the intercoms or over the speaker, so you can't hear what they're saying. Great questions, you all. I think we'll stop right there. Excuse me. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate your interest in the case. I hope that you're getting something from this. Again, here's where you can find me and follow me, along with eastidahonews.com, my employer. So, give them a little love too. We've got a Facebook page for East Idaho News and our YouTube and whatnot. And this is the best place to keep up to date on the trial. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place, from Boise, bringing you the latest on the trial. And again, if you have questions, post them below and let me know what you like, what you don't like, and we'll try to get to it as best we can. All right. Oh, hey, I can't forget this. Coming up in just a few minutes. Where is Elantra Fisher? It's a report I've been working on when I'm not doing this. I have a special graphic. This starts at 8:30 Mountain Time. We are going to talk about this missing girl and other FLDS kids who are missing and how there are some groups getting together to try to do something about this. I have Elantra's mother coming on, an attorney who's helped thousands of people escape polygamy, a woman who runs an organization to help people who have escaped polygamy. That's coming up here at 8:30. So wherever you're watching, you'll be here in about 10 minutes. If you're on my Facebook page, it'll be here. If you're on our YouTube page at East Idaho News, it will be here too. So stay tuned for that. And I got to get ready for that. All right. Hey, have a good night. Thanks for watching. Take care.